It is Monday, May 11th, 2020. It is 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and so you know what time it is. It's time for a little bit of coin metal. And it was yet another No Jiu-Jitsu, Get Your Ass Kicked at Jiu-Jitsu Monday. I'm certainly hoping that will be resolved relatively soon. I know I keep saying that, but it's my hope. It's my hope that everybody will get it together and just say, you know what, fuck these people. We're just going to get back to work. If they want to come and try and bill us, we're going to take them to court. Going to fuck them in the ass with it. So, I think that, I think that's exactly what's going to happen in the not so distant future. And one of the key things I saw today really kind of made me happy. Especially because of the importance of Tesla and Elon Musk. There was a kerfuffle recently between him and I guess the mayor concerning the closure of their factory, and apparently Mr. Musk has decided, you know what, fuck y'all people, we're going to open up anyway. They were talking about moving to Texas or I guess it was Arizona was another potential landing spot for them. But they chose the smarter option, at least I think, and decided to fight it out in California and open up. And I honestly believe that's the better thing to do. Because at this point, even if there is a mild bump in people that do have the COVID that we're also worried about, even if there is a mild bump in it, it's going to be nothing by comparison to the number of suicides that would most likely ensue if we were to stay trapped indoors for another 2 or 3 months. Simply because humans are social animals, and as a matter of fact, it's one of the things that's always struck me as odd and incorrect about the whole prescription of activities to be restrained and inhibited in this whole lockdown thing. The fact of the matter is one of the things that increases our immunity to anything that we're susceptible to is our exposure to other people that have it. And I know that sounds completely antithetical, but it's why vaccinations work. Vaccinations, the whole principle of them is that you're trying to introduce the pathogen to the body in a form that does not make it active, but orients your immune system to dealing with it. The thing is this is a natural stage of a virus as it's going through any population of humans. There's a stage where we're all relatively immune to it, and the stuff that we're shedding, because we're always shedding, the virus that we're shedding is actually less potent because it's gotten its ass kicked by our immune system, and so when we pass it on to somebody else, it's a lot easier for them to kick its ass because they're already heterogeneous with you as far as like diet and location and all that, and environmental concerns and all that. So it's just a matter of this factoid of how your immune system deals with the pathogen that makes the difference between whether or not you survive or die. And so, like I said, from that point on, when I saw that, isolation and being no, wrong. That's the wrong way to handle it. And especially when I was looking at things like the fatality rates, I'm like, oh my God, no, you're gonna lose so much in GDP and fucking employment and all that other shit that it just doesn't need to fucking happen. And the fact of the matter is that we probably go through viral outbreaks that are even worse than COVID all the fucking time, and just nobody knows it because it's not putting everybody in bed or something like that. But that 1 out of a billion people that gets exposed to it at just the right time and just the right susceptibility, and the stars align correctly, and the gravitational pull from the moon is just right. They get it. and they have a minor outbreak where they expose other people to a virulent version of it, and then it runs its course. But it doesn't kill like a significant number of us before people start looking at it and trying to isolate one another. So anyway, I think that COVID's been completely overblown, as I've said multiple times on the show, and I think that in the not so distant future, actually probably a lot quicker than our leaders would like us to, we'll be getting back underway. But I think the one thing that is going to change is that a lot of people's jobs aren't coming back, and that's kind of an underplayed, understated fact. But I don't know. I'm sure there'll be some sort of pickup in home employment and whatnot, and that we will see that is a greater utility for people that are wanting to continue to work and make money. I think that the idea of trying to use this opportunity to push UBI on us, I think that's silly. And there has been quite a bit of it. Oh yeah, we need universal basic income. Yeah, so the government can tell you exactly what to spend the $600 they're going to give you a month. Oh no, you can't afford to have a steak or a lobster or anything like that. No, because you don't have enough money. You're relying on the government to give you money. So you suck. Anyway, let's go ahead and throw down with some music. And as far as where we're going to go, we're going to start with some body count. But what song? That's always the big one. Institutionalized, 2014, First Dance, here on Coin Metal. And that was Megadeth with Of Mice and Men. And so, what we're going to get into today, got a whole bunch of stuff tied up here, although I wasn't exactly sure how I wanted to start. The first thing I got here, it's on the Daily Hodl, and I'm not sure if I want to go with this one or this one. That one, I think we can stash that one for a bit. Way back here. Let's get up to the front, though. Where the hell did I... Not that one. That was just a summary page. Not that one either. I had this... here we go. And, this one's on the Daily Hodl. Vitalik Buterin defends Ethereum, says Bitcoin facing influx of, quote, centralized middlemen. And this is by the Daily Hodl staff, so no indication of gender or genitalia. Anyway, this is authored May 9th, 2020. Ethereum co-creator Vitalik Buterin is fending off naysayers who believe the smart contract platform is simply extending the life of the legacy financial instead of offering a truly decentralized alternative. I don't know how they could say that. They're actually... I think Bitcoin is actually worse for that, but I'm not entirely sure. In a debate on Twitter, Buterin counters a statement from the co-founder of Crypto Noticias, who says the Ethereum-based decentralized financial movement, which is designed to offer a way to access services like loans without intermediaries, is actually creating an ecosystem that is chock full of middlemen. Quote, I really and truly think it's the opposite. Bitcoin people seem happy to have lots of centralized middlemen, BitMEX, Tether, Liquid, and it's the Ethereum community that's trying to decentralize these functions with smart contract constructions. And that was by Vitalik Buterin, and that was on May 8th, 2020. Buterin also lists a few Ethereum-based systems that he says have remained faithful to the decentralized nature of cryptocurrency, including decentralized exchanges, the Ethereum name service, and automated exchange protocol Uniswap. While there may be a rift between Bitcoin and Ethereum communities, Buterin also wants to build a decentralized bridge between the two, leading crypto assets that will allow users to directly convert Ethereum to Bitcoin and vice versa. Quote, "We should put resources towards a proper trustless, serverless, maximally Uniswap-like Ethereum to Bitcoin decentralized exchange. It is embarrassing that we still can't easily move between the two largest crypto ecosystems trustlessly." No, it isn't, Vitalik. It really isn't. Because there are people within Ethereum that have already created two solutions. One kind of, I would suppose, addresses that concern directly, and as a matter of fact, we're probably going to go to that directly next, because I think that's kind of pertinent, you know. My biggest problem with Ethereum, and it has been my biggest problem with them ever since the DAO hack, is that they are willing to, the Ethereum developers have shown that they have a propensity to cow to direct pressure. And this is not good. And I don't care who the direct pressure is coming from, whether it be from the Bitcoin community or the Ethereum community or some government somewhere. The fact that they have public-facing individuals that at least claim that they can direct the Ethereum policy, the network policy, I think it's bad for them. You know, I think that if they were to be taking a much more broad-based approach, you know, I think all of these entities, and we could be talking about social media, we could be talking about Bitcoin exchanges and whatnot. I think they're all coming into this problem, okay, where they are being expected, at least by our governments, to adhere to certain policies, and those policies are bad in that like, say Facebook, you know, say if they get hacked, you know, then your shit is fucked. I mean, if you have any kind of payment stuff associated with them, you're fucked. But the thing is how much liability does Facebook face for that? And I think there's not enough liability being pressed on these people for having taken up the positions that they have. However, at the same time, I don't believe that they should be in that position at all. I believe Facebook, like Mark Zuckerberg, I don't believe that he should be auditing your shit at all. As long as you're not like propagating outright scams and frauds on his platform, that should be like the total length of his liability. Is people intentionally, fraudulently scamming one another. And of course they have to watch their own participation level too. You know, are they keeping track of people in ways that people would rather they don't? You know, such as accessing their video camera or the microphones on their devices or their desktop at times when they do not wish for that to be happening. You know, that's the length and breadth of what Facebook should be managing. The rest of it should be things that they offer on their platform, goods and services. And again, to the extent that they make those offerings, they should be held legally liable for whatever permissions they're requesting. You know, so if they're asking for permissions to access your bank account, and somebody else gets that bank account information and fucks you over, Facebook should be completely and totally liable. And I'm not saying that they aren't, nor that they won't make you whole, but I'm saying that in all honesty, they shouldn't even be in that position. You know, that if there are people that are scamming other people on their platform, that the individuals that are the scammers, that's really the onus. Because it's not Facebook. I mean, Facebook is not designed specifically, well, I don't believe it is anyway, to scam everybody. However, there are people that use their platform to scam everybody. So again, the place where the blame really belongs in that whole matrix, I believe, is the individuals that are responsible for the scammery, not Facebook in whole. Unless, of course, Facebook is knowingly propagating scams, in which case, then yes, they should be held fully liable for that shit and rammed in every orifice. But, they want to assume some sort of responsibility, and they want to assume some sort of right of censorship. And of course, it is their platform, and to that end, it's their property. They have that right. But with that comes the taint of people's distaste for being censored. And so I think that Facebook and other entities that have been exercising this right, such as YouTube and Twitter and Facebook, and Reddit, where they've let political ideology direct what they fucking delete and what they leave up. And so you got cases where, pedophiles and whatnot leave their stuff up on YouTube. Nobody bats an eye, and YouTube shakes their hands up in the air and says, "Oh, we can't really do anything because they're not technically breaking the EULA." Meanwhile, they're deplatforming people like Alex Jones because they're disseminating information that YouTube or Facebook, it's against their commercial interests, either directly on their platform or by other business interests that they may have. And this is a terrible position to be putting oneself in, because again, that will come back and bite you in the ass, where people get sick of that shit. They get sick of the idea of you monitoring them. They get sick of the idea of you censoring them. And they go somewhere else. They stop using your fucking service. They MySpace your ass. And nobody is above it. Not here online. And I don't believe that there is any real force out there that will change that. There are too many interests in retaining some sort of sovereignty over it yourself, because that means that you are responsible for it, which means that to some extent Facebook can't really be held liable for your fucking stupidity. Like if you're on Facebook and you see some scam that says, "Hey, if you give us 10 Ethereum, we'll give you 100 in 2 days," and you fall for that shit, Facebook has no fucking liability. As a matter of fact, I don't even believe the scammer has any fucking liability. Why? Because you're the fucking idiot in the room that did it. And worse yet, you probably had friends, family members even telling you, "Dude, that's a scam. That sounds like a scam. We probably should do a little more investigation." And if you spent the additional 30 fucking seconds of doing a Google search, you probably would have found enough information that didn't pass your smell test, your personal smell test, as dumb as you may be, and save yourself that. No, I'm just going to go click, give the Ethereum to, give me my money. Oh no, they took my money. Yeah, too bad. That was your fault. You're a fucking idiot. And if you don't feel that pain, it would be like if you were a blind person and you had no sensitivity to your hands, and you're like walking around touching stuff that burns your skin. You're doing it over and over and over again because the sensitivity from your hand isn't getting your brain saying, "Yo, that shit's really hot and it's burning your skin. Don't do that." And people want to be relieved of that responsibility. And I'm sorry, man, there is no way to do that. There is no way of relieving you of that responsibility. You can blame other people, but you're the fucking idiot that stuck your dick into the pencil sharpener and hit sharpen. That's you. That's on you. That's on you. And you need to eat that shit. Anyway, I have another one though. And this one addresses two concerns that Mr. Buterin communicated here. And I find it really, really humorous because there's been so much fighting from the Bitcoin side of things on Ethereum. and yet this is happening. And this is on Decrypt. It's authored May 11th, 2020. There's more Bitcoin on Ethereum than in the Lightning Network. And as a matter of fact, I think I've actually read an article previously that matched these claims. This is by Liam Frost. So yes, penis. And continuing on. Recent data shows that the total amount of Bitcoin in circulation on the Ethereum blockchain is currently higher than in Bitcoin's very own Lightning Network, its second layer scaling protocol. According to the decentralized finance metrics website DeFi Pulse, wrapped Bitcoin tokens currently locked in Ethereum are worth $11.4 million in total. As Decrypt explained previously, WBTC is an ERC20 token that represents Bitcoin. One WBTC equals one Bitcoin. Bitcoin can be converted into wrapped Bitcoin, and being an ERC20 token makes the transfer of WBTC faster than normal Bitcoin because it's being transacted on the Ethereum network that works on, I think it's like a 30-second block time or some shit. I think it's even faster than that. I don't know. Anyway, continuing. But the key advantage of WBTC is its integration into the world of Ethereum wallets, decentralized applications, and smart contracts. Currently, there's around 1,300 WBTC in circulation. For comparison, there's roughly 927 Bitcoin on the Lightning Network, just over $8 million at press time, according to Bitcoin Visuals. Oh, looks like there was a significant drop there. Notably, in the past couple years, various Lightning-focused blockchain startups have attracted significantly more money for the development of the network than actually circulates on it today, as some crypto enthusiasts have pointed out. Even a few examples, such as Lightning Labs, raised $2.5 million on March 15, 2018, and $10 million on February 5, 2020. Bolt Labs, $1.5 million on April 17, 2019, and Async, $8 million on October 8, 2019, amount to $22 million in total, almost 3 times more funds than are currently being held on the network, on the Lightning Network itself. At the same time, it looks like these impressive funding rounds have paid off, as the last year passed in a flash of innovation for Bitcoin's scaling solution in 2020 is arguably shaping up to become the best year yet for the Lightning Network. That remains to be seen, and I think that what we're going to see here. I think that what we're going to run into, and this is going to put a kibosh on a lot of the development and brain power and money going into Lightning Network development, is that we're going to see a spike in the price of Bitcoin fees. And we've already seen that. I would argue that that's probably had more to do with the pullback than anything. Of course, if you look at the chart, this recent spike was just an anticipation of the halvening itself. But overall, it looks like a pretty standard uptrend, that we're still continuing on, even though there has been a mild dip from our peak. But again, that's happened pretty much like every halvening. That there's like a run up at the very end of the halvening, and then right before the halvening, there'll be a significant sell-off, and it's starting earlier and earlier every time around. Although I think next time around we'll have been through enough halvenings between Ethereum and other networks that are live at the moment, that we won't really regard halvenings as that big a deal. I mean, maybe in price terms. I think overall that the price term increases and decreases will even out over time. But I think overall Bitcoin is just going to be on an uptrend, simply as a mechanic of the fact that its rate of inflation is much slower than that of the US dollar or any other fiat currency in circulation. And because of that, it will always go up in relative terms in whatever fiat currency that you're counting it in. That is, as long as these fiat currencies are issuing trillions of dollars in new fucking debt and new tokens every year. And I mean, we've seen probably more increase, or at least agreed to increases that far exceed what was issued for the TARP. And I mean, that has an economic effect on the fiat currencies currently in circulation. It has a depreciating effect on the US dollars currently in circulation. It just does. And I don't care how you weight the value of the US dollar. That's the facts. Now, of course, we can see an offset when we're also looking around and we're seeing that other fiat currencies are actually falling faster in relative value to the US dollar. However, that doesn't change the fact that it takes energy, it takes money, it takes power, it takes people to do things like get the oil out of the ground. And as long as that's true, those people are going to want to get paid. And as long as that's true, we're going to have an increase in relative inflation, because when those people that are going out there and they're busting their ass and they're drilling oil, and they're doing that and they're looking at their paycheck and it's like $2,400, and they go to their next door neighbor and their neighbor is sitting on their ass eating Cheetos all day watching TV, and they're getting $1,600 a month or $1,200 a month. They think about it a while. It's like, okay, I bust my ass and I risk my life and I do all that to make sure that the oil is still pumping out of the ground, and this ungrateful bastard is earning at least half of my paycheck sitting around eating Cheetos. I think I could save myself the trip to and from work. Well, that'd cut off about a $400 a month expense that to and from work, and then maybe I could also make a couple other adjustments and get my cost profile down to that $1,200 a month, and hang out with my next door neighbor all day, and instead of going and busting my ass on the oil field. This is going to be a real thought for a lot of fucking people. Especially when we're talking about introducing things like UBI. This is a real thought process that I'm describing to you. That you are going to have a significant number of people that were formerly busting their ass in the oil fields, or formerly, busting their ass doing poultry or beef or pork or anything like that. And they're going to be looking at their chicken shit wages for risking their lives and busting their ass all day long for 12 to 16 hours a day, 5 days a week. And they're going to be looking at what they earn doing that versus what Joe Sixpack next door makes watching TV and eating Cheetos. And they're going to be making value decisions. They're going to be like, yo, I could probably reduce my cost profile and live even cheaper than Joe Sixpack here, and maybe even have an extra buck or two to take down to the barn and have a beer. And I think that enough of, I know human nature enough to think that a significant number of you probably will do that initially. See, then there's another thing that happens right after that. People look at any one of the states in the cycle, and they assume that that's going to be the state for any significant duration of time. And I think that's the biggest mistake, and especially in a market like we've got right now, is because things are so fluid that we are going to be seeing way up, way down, way up, way down, way up, way down for a little while, until all this shit evens back out again, and we find out exactly how much labor we actually require out there in the market. and what the energy expense of having those people go from A to B actually is. I think that one of the biggest things we're going to find out, though, is that the U.S. economy is taxed to such a high extent. And I do mean that, taxed. You know, you fucking Europeans, you think you got it bad with that whole VAT tax thing. Man, they invent new taxes to tax you after you've sold the shit that they already taxed you on because you made it, right? And then, like, you at the end of the year, they have you reassess what you made and make sure that they got enough of your fucking ass from the rest of it. I mean, come on now. We are so fucking overtaxed that this divot in the GDP that we're producing, that's nothing. It's going to be a drop in the bucket. The bigger issue that we're going to be facing is the unpaid mandates, the unfunded mandates that have been handed down to us from the last 30 years of fucking Congress just whipping up fucking spending bills willy-nilly. All right, those bills aren't going to stop coming. Those departments that those spending bills fund, those bills aren't going to stop coming if those places aren't closed up. Now, of course, it will be necessary for a significant portion of them to close up in order for enough of the economy to get active in creating revenue. Because that really is what we do need. Now, whether it be at home or from a home-based business, which I believe a lot more of us will be doing, or from having to go to a factory, you know, working for Elon Musk or somebody else like that. I'm not the person to determine that, and neither is anybody in government. The market itself is going to exert its demand. It's going to say, hey, yo, we need X amount of milk, we need X amount of eggs, we need electricity, we need gasoline, we need this much amount. The market is going to come back to flow on a lot of this stuff. And a lot of it's going to be a hell of a lot more expensive than it was before, because the whole funding apparatus of having it happen, you know, exclusively by the banks, where they're able to manipulate this and manipulate that to where, you know, the farmers are just coming out just above break even, you know, just enough to keep them on the hook of needing financing to start up again next season. You know, and all of their workers are caught in this fucking dependency cycle. You know, you wonder why the Rust Belt and the Farm Belt are completely dependent on opioids. It's not because they're using the fucking things. It's because they're selling the fucking things to the people who are using the fucking things. And they don't all live in Kentucky. You know, a lot of them live in New York and Chicago and Illinois, you know. I mean, a lot of them live outside of their direct vicinity, but that's what the market is. They're just farming opioids like they do corn. You know, they can't make as much money on the corn, so they farm opioids instead. You know, it's an incentive-driven market. And the sooner we come to grips with that and try to quit trying to direct it through taxation and regulation and trying to pick out winners and losers on the government level, the sooner that we can get back to a functional government, a functional economy, rather. I don't care if we come to a really functional government beyond international concerns and certain framework enforcement issues that do need to be upheld. Otherwise, people get hurt. Real people get really hurt. I would not consider wage laws or a lot of the ecological laws that we have right now. I think are more counterproductive than productive. Because I've described this a lot on this show, but I think a lot of people still mistake it, is that in order for government to deal with an issue, or an issue to be bad enough for government to dedicate funds and energy to dealing with it, it has to be significant. It has to necessitate a couple $1 billion worth of enforcement actions every year. And so, some of it needs to exist. Because if it doesn't exist, then you don't need to regulate it. You see how that works? So, you know, while we've got DHS, we've got DHS and we've got other entities that watch for, child pornography and sex trafficking and whatever. Some of that has to exist in order to necessitate the budget for that entity. If it doesn't exist, The entity can't exist. So part of that entity's budget is probably just propagating pedophilia information out on the internet so that the pedophiles can get a significant enough size and get their sex ring going to a big enough size to necessitate busting them with ICE officers and doing the whole 3 a.m. raid and shit. You got to pay people when they're doing that. They're taking hazard pay, they're taking overtime and all that. That's a multi-million-dollar operation that you got to do each time. And so, in order to necessitate the logistics and the manpower and all that other shit for those operations, you have to allow some of that shit to exist. Sorry, got to let some baby rapers exist in order to have a baby raper organization big enough to bother busting. And that's if it's regulated by government, though. See, morally and ethically, nobody would agree to the existence of pedophilia. As a matter of fact, they'd probably want to stomp it out and forthwith. But if you have government handling it, well, fuck, some of it's got to exist, dude. Sorry. And we're going to find out over and over again in finance that it is less expensive to just let the shit run out, and some people are going to get burned, but moreover, we're going to learn better business practices, and we're going to figure out why exactly we don't need government intervention. And I know that's a lesson that a lot of people would rather we never have the opportunity to go through, but we're going through it in crypto here, whether we want to or not. Anyway, let's go ahead and throw back down with some music, and I think that we ought to start this Monday out right. Where is it? There's one song that's perfect for this. And where is it? There we go. These Freaks Are Here to Party by Infectious Grooves here on Coin Metal. And that was Meshuggah with, I think that was Erroneous something or other. My apologies. I actually let that one run a little bit over. These things happen. Anyway, as far as what we're getting into next, let's see here. I wanted to start off with this one because I find this very interesting. And I think we're going to see more of this, especially with the centralized exchanges such as Coinbase and others. And this is by Billy Bambrew. Sudden Bitcoin crash sparks serious Coinbase warning. And this is Billy Brambo, and I think this is authored today. Authored May 10th, 2020 at 3:45 a.m. Eastern DDT, or EDT rather. Bitcoin, after rallying to over $10,000 per Bitcoin in the last few days, has suddenly crashed back. The Bitcoin price lost more than 10% in a matter of minutes yesterday evening, dropping below lows of $8,100 on the Luxembourg-based Bitstamp exchange before rebounding to settle around $8,600. However, an outage on major U.S. Bitcoin and crypto exchange Coinbase just after Bitcoin's price plummet left many users unable to trade. The second time in less than a month, Coinbase has buckled under stress. Quote, how many times do we have to say, take your Bitcoin off of Coinbase if you want to have access to it? Rochelle Siegel, a Bitcoin and cryptocurrency content creator, warned via Twitter, adding, quote, this is not the first time Coinbase has gone down, and it surely will not be the last. Quote, Coinbase is acting like NYSE circuit breaking, joked Jason Williams, co-founder and partner at Bitcoin and crypto hedge fund Morgan Creek Digital, suggesting that Coinbase outages could dampen spikes and dips in the Bitcoin price. Coinbase acknowledged the outage and said it was, quote, investigating this issue before declaring the incident resolved 3 hours later. Coinbase has been contacted for further comment. Intermittent Coinbase outages are becoming a predictable problem for users of the popular San Francisco-based Bitcoin and crypto exchange. At the end of last month, just as Bitcoin rallied some 15% around $9,000, Coinbase experienced a similar outage. Despite data provider Skew finding Coinbase volume was not excessively high relative to other peaks in trading volume during the past 2 weeks. Coinbase also went down in March, leaving users locked out of their accounts during the broad coronavirus crash that wiped more than 20% from Bitcoin's value in mere minutes. Users reported at least 2 similar issues over the course of 2019. Problems for Coinbase come as the Bitcoin and crypto community is geared up for next week's highly anticipated Bitcoin supply squeeze known as a halvening. The looming Bitcoin halvening set for early May 12th, which already happened though, will be the third since Bitcoin was created just over a decade ago, and we'll see the number of Bitcoin rewarded to the so-called miners that maintain the Bitcoin network halved, dropped from 12.5 Bitcoin per block to 6.25. Many expect Bitcoin volatility and trading volumes to spike this week. And so what I believe is going on with Coinbase is this, that they put their transactions into the same mempool as everybody else, and when that motherfucking thing spikes in volume, which it recently did, I think it was up to over 30 megabytes worth of transactions, that blocks up everybody, not just Coinbase. And even blowing through transactions really, really quick, like they have been. And as a matter of fact, this article indicates it. Okay, this article is projecting that the halvening would happen sometime during the 12th of May, when it in fact happened before 12 o'clock today. So, you know, that gives you an indication of how fast we've been finding blocks recently. And I think it's because the miners timed it to where they were taking down old machines and bringing up new machines right around the halvening to try and maximize the number of Bitcoin they would be able to harvest before the end of the halvening, before the actual halvening itself. And so, yeah, the outages though, with regard to Coinbase, I would say it's because they're not willing to eat the transaction fees that are being necessitated, even despite the fact they're doing batching and all that other bullshit. They're not trusting things like Lightning and Liquid to funnel money between them and other exchanges. They're having to do settlement transactions on the Bitcoin blockchain, and that shit gets really expensive. And so they put their transactions in the mempool just like everybody else, and even though they're probably even paying a higher fee than most people are willing to pay, they're still being locked out for significant periods of time, so long that they're having to actually close down operations for short periods of time to allow the network to process enough of their transactions for them to be able to stack on new ones and process those. This problem is not going to go away. And I think that the people that have been staking all their hopes on Lightning Network, no. I think you're going to be sorely disappointed. And it's because of this, that entities such as Coinbase, they need final settlement. They've been operating on final settlement for quite a long time now. And so when that's being held up because the network traffic is too high, it's going to get really competitive to stash those transactions into blocks. And all of you that are planning on stacking your transactions and your transactive activity on payment channels on top of the Bitcoin network, you're going to find that you are not immune from this issue either. In the fantasy that you're going to be able to stack, just millions of dollars worth of transactive activity on top of, just a small transaction fee of less than $5. No. The miners are going to make you pay for that fucking block space. It's their network. They are the network. They get to price how much that network is going to charge you to process your transactions. I've made note of this multiple times that fee chart, it is progressive. It is not linear. The rate of like a Satoshi per KB or even byte, that's not consistent. It is progressive. It's not linear. It's not just like, if you're putting in 2, it goes to 4 rather than 2. It's not like 1 KB 1 sat, and then 2 sat. I mean 2 KB 2 sats. It's like 2 KB 2.14 sats, and then it progressively goes up. And so this will be noted soon enough. I believe that we will go through a significant price spike in Bitcoin. This issue will be communicated back down through the network. Fees will get really, really expensive. And then people will sell their Bitcoin and go to altcoins that they can depend upon. And then we're going to see some massive spikes in altcoins. I believe this is how it'll break down. At least this is how it's broken down before. And I don't really expect it's going to change. And I think that it's kind of fortuitous that this process should be happening now, because especially now, we're starting to see people question exactly how much regulatory reach government should have. And so when we're in that questioning mind state, and all of a sudden we have entities saying, oh, you have to transact on this network, and then they see that there are other options available, they're, no, fuck you, I'm going to transact in Dogecoin and not pay any taxes on my transactions, and fuck all of you. See, there's some people that believe that the whole world is going to just bumble along and accept the fact that the Federal Reserve is printing billions and billions and trillions of dollars, and just accept the fact that they are being asked to undertake the loss in relative value of the US dollars that they currently have and the ones that they shall earn in the future, and that they're just going to accept that. That somehow the Federal Reserve is immune from all of the laws of economics and the entire history of our use of currency and monetary units. Somehow, they're completely immune, and the world is just going to accept that. I'm here to tell you that is incorrect. The world will not accept that. Especially not with other monetary mediums that, when compared in relative terms, such as ones that we have to mine in order for them to exist, that it's going to come out that you need to charge more per Bitcoin in order to be able to maintain the network at all. And I think with demand pressure such as we're seeing, and I think Coinbase and their shutdown issues is a reflection of that discontinuity between how much it costs to maintain transactions or to do transactions on the Bitcoin network, and the lack of relative value to the miners. And I think that overall the miners are going to be charging you guys more. As long as we keep a cap on the amount of block space available, and trying to distort valuations by counting things like block weight over block height, and yeah, I think over the longer term we're going to find out that that's not really the way to go about it, and the better way would be to open up the block size and allow the spam transactions. You want to spend the money to get the transactions in the blocks, you go right ahead. You'll make it more valuable for itty bitty miners out there to be processing blocks, because even just as participants in a mining pool, they'll be earning enough money in mining fees that even though there are thousands and thousands of transactions for sub penny, they're still making thousands and thousands of dollars every week just on transaction fees. Yeah, go right ahead. Broadcast as many bullshit transactions as you want. The network will catch up to you. It wants the fees just as much as you want to communicate your bullshit transactions and pollute the network. And they are willing to process them as long as they're getting paid to do it. But yeah, I think that's over the longer term, I think that's exactly what's going to happen with regard to Bitcoin, is that the miners are going to see that they could be making more money on other networks. This is going to cause a lapse in the integrity of the Bitcoin network. One of these big-ass payment channels is going to get hacked because there'll be so little fucking hashing power left on the network, or at least there won't be enough power on the on the network itself. There won't be enough hashing power coming from other sources. The shit will get 51%ed, and that'll be that. It'll be lesson learned. Or at least the network will shift enough into somebody's hands that they'll start abusing that position, and that'll cause more people to mine. And then they'll look at the what drew this thing to happen, and they'll be saying, well, we don't want that to happen again, so we'll just go ahead and open up the blocks to where they're capless, because the networks out there, the physical networks out there, can actually handle the transactive activity of us going to bigger blocks. And so that centralization fear just goes away, and it shouldn't really exist to begin with, honestly. But yeah, I think that is what's going to cause Bitcoin to change, is that we're not going to be seeing this big migration to second layer solutions, and specifically because of what I've outlined. But I've got this other article here, and this one might actually give us a little more insight into that. It's on Cointelegraph, and this is by Kyle Torpy. So yes, penis. And let me check when this thing was actually authored. It says 3 hours ago, but no, actually 6 hours ago. Here's why exchanges haven't integrated Bitcoin's Lightning Network. On Sunday, Lightning Labs CEO Elizabeth Stark explained why exchanges have been hesitant to integrate Bitcoin's Lightning Network. The Lightning Network has been live for a few years now, but Bitcoin exchanges still haven't joined the party, at least not for the most part. Bitfinex is the most notable exception to the rule, as they added Lightning Network in December of last year. During her appearance at the Kraken Block Drop VR halving party on Sunday, Lightning Labs CEO Elizabeth Stark shed some light on why the vast majority of exchanges haven't implemented this method of paying faster, cheaper Bitcoin transfers. Quote, "When Bitfinex launched Lightning support in December, that was, to me, a really exciting step," said Stark. It was the first major exchange. There has also been a variety of smaller exchanges that have launched with Lightning support, and they were really blazing the trail. Exchanges need larger transaction capacity. According to Stark, the basic problem with the Lightning Network when it comes to adoption by exchanges comes down to the channel and transaction limits that have been placed on the Layer 2 payments network in its early days for security reasons. Quote, This, to me, is key to the exchange adoption part, because if you can only have $1,500 per channel, it turns out that's not a ton regarding exchanges, said Stark. But there's a balance that needs to happen, of course. We don't want people to have massive channels while Lightning is still in its relatively early days. Even Purse, which allows consumers to gain discounts on their Amazon shopping when they pay in Bitcoin, recently cited the relatively low limit on how much money can be sent over the Lightning Network as a reason they haven't decided to support it yet. Wumbo channels fix this. An increase in the default capacity of Lightning Network nodes will eventually be made available through an improvement known as Wumbo channels. The feature's name is based on a reference to an episode of SpongeBob SquarePants where Patrick uses the word Wumbo to mean very large. With Wumbo channels enabled, users of LND, which is the Lightning implementation maintained by Lightning Labs, will be able to remove the past limitations on how much Bitcoin they can hold and send via their Lightning Network node. According to Stark, the opt-in nature of this functionality is important to make sure the average user doesn't accidentally open an extremely large channel or send a jumbo-sized payment over Lightning. While Wumbo channels aren't currently available in LND, that hasn't stopped some users from enabling the feature on their own. Additionally, the feature has already been added to at least one other implementation of Lightning Node software. Channel limits are not a consensus-based rule, which means in reality, users are able to choose their own limits, with a little bit of extra work. Quote, welcome to Bitcoin, you can't tell people what to do. That's not true. According to Stark, Lightning Labs hopes to have Wumbo support added to an official LND release later this year, but Bitcoin companies Bitfinex, Bitrefill, and Fold have already activated Wumbo channels on their nodes. Quote, Wumbo can be turned on in LND at any time. It's trivial from a code standpoint, but we want to be security-minded. We want to be in a place where we are comfortable with people not losing money. In September, a critical vulnerability in Lightning implementations that could lead to loss of user funds was revealed. According to Stark, a number of different exchanges such as Bitstamp are currently experimenting with Lightning Network by running their own nodes. Quote, that's something where people can kind of, before doing the full-fledged deposits and withdrawals, they can kind of jump in, check out the tech, engage with the community, and all that, said Stark. Yeah, I think this is kind of a misnomer. See, the problem with Lightning channels, in my mind at least, is that the bigger they are, the more incentive there is to try and hack them. And so that's one of the reasons why they've been hesitant to enable users to increase the size of their channels at their will. Is because, they don't want to anticipate, they don't want to be facing the liability should one of these users have one of their transactions hacked, and then it's going to be like, oh, it's Lightning Labs' fault because it was the LND implementation of this shit that allowed this shit to happen. Well, like I said before, assuming the role of being that arbiter, where you're saying, hey, this is our implementation. If you do that, you are assuming responsibility for critical errors or other issues that cost people money that happen on your implementation of the software. And to me, Lightning is an improper use of the Bitcoin network. That's just my perspective. It's something that's best to be handling things like within your own like intranet, as far as like monetary transfers and stuff, I would be using it like if I had multiple sites all over the planet, I would be using it for that kind of thing, or that's the kind of implementation I would be using it for. But again, you face the issue of whatever exposure you do have to the Bitcoin network. And, anyway. I think it fucks. There's certain incentives that change that make it worth trying to hack you. Even if the adversarial attacker is just a competitor for the actual good or service that you're providing. If they can disable you in any way, they will. If it's more profitable for them to be acting in an adversarial manner toward you in this way, and there is an available attack surface that makes it cheaper for them to disable you in such a way, they will attack you. And it doesn't matter if the fucking adversarial attacker is a government or a corporate or a corporate entity or even a private entity. If it is worth it to them to do it, they will do it. And I don't know how far this will go into it, but it describes something, I'm sure, that will relate to what we were just discussing. It's on news.fiu.edu. Researchers find Bitcoin's Lightning Network susceptible to cyber attacks. And this is authored May 11th, 2020 at 1:11 p.m. No indication of time zone. Shame on you, Diana. And this is by Diana Allende. Hernandez Allende, but I don't do the middle name thing. Anyway, so no penis. Bitcoin, the decentralized digital currency without a central bank, saw a decline in price due to COVID-19. After announcements of travel restrictions, the price plummeted from $8,000 to $3,800 in one day. What? According to a report by Crypto Compare, what? When did it do that? Holy crap. Check this out. This is, I guess this is April 4th, 2020. Antonio Madeira, retail bought 3.7k Bitcoin price dip on record, $76 billion volume report. Holy crap. Fear of the coronavirus pandemic infected investor confidence, leading to Bitcoin price to crash by 50%. But as this occurred, retail for demand Bitcoin increased and institutions left. Holy crap. That's interesting. Although the coronavirus pandemic has led many brick-and-mortar industries to close operations, cryptocurrency exchanges seem to have had their best month for a long time. In a recent exchange report released by Crypto Compare, Bitcoin trading volume saw record-breaking numbers throughout the month. On March 13th, the market crash that brought the Bitcoin price from $8,000 to a low of $3,800 in 24 hours registered the biggest day for crypto in terms of trading volumes registered at Bitcoin to spot markets. On March 13th alone, the daily volumes hit an all-time high of 75.9 billion. Interesting. Bitcoin sell-off propelled by a dash for cash. Not only did Bitcoin see its biggest spike in spot trading volumes during the crash to 3750. Oh, they're talking about overall. Never mind. I thought they were talking about it crashed recently to that. I'm like, oh, when did that shit happen? Anyway, continuing on. Despite the crash, people haven't lost confidence in Bitcoin. Forbes reported that Americans are using their stimulus checks to buy Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. In 2017, Bitcoin launched Bitcoin Lightning, an overlay network that allows for a faster, efficient, and more affordable way to send Bitcoin globally. This was in response to network clogging. The benefit of a speedier transaction, like sending Bitcoin in seconds, also comes with a disadvantage. Researchers at FIU have discovered that lightning enables attackers to perform cyber attacks such as controlling botnets. Botnets are a series of devices that infect computer machines with malicious software. The researchers published a paper on the subject, and we've got that, on the subject and built a proof of concept called LNBot. Quote, "The goal of the research is to show that lightning can be used to control a botnet," said Amit Kurt, a PhD student in electrical and computer engineering and co-author of the paper. Quote, "We offer potential countermeasures to stop botnets like the LNBot. Such attacks with the botnet include denial of service attacks, information and identity theft, and spam messages." How would these attacks take place on Bitcoin technology? According to Kurt and the research team, consisting of doctoral students Inez Erden and Merman Kibi, and College of Engineering and Computing professors Kamal Akaya and Salkuk Uluwagok, botmasters would corrupt computers with infectious programs to control the computers using command and control servers without giving away the botmaster's identity. Botmasters are hackers who control botnets. Botmasters create a command infrastructure to control bots and have a communication channel between themselves and the bots. The system is a one-way conversation where servers wouldn't be able to respond to botmasters. After 2 years of the introduction of Lightning, the network grew exponentially with 12,400 nodes. Nodes refer to a device like a computer that contains a copy of the transaction history of the blockchain. In general, Bitcoin offers some anonymity. However, the activity of botnets can be traced by any observer, leaving the history of the malicious activity on the blockchain. The aim of creating Lightning was to decrease the load on the Bitcoin network, providing affordable fees for transactions and reducing the validation times of transactions. With Lightning, Bitcoin transactions are, quote, off-chain and not recorded on the blockchain, making it a decentralized system. Users' identities also remain fully anonymous. Kurt's research focuses on how Lightning is the ideal place for botmasters to take advantage of the existing techniques and perform malicious cyber activities. Quote, "Since transactions aren't recorded on the blockchain, a botmaster can communicate with the CNC servers and would never be disclosed because there is no way to trace it back to the original botmaster," said Kurt. Kurt and the team's LNBot is in Bitcoin's testnet, which is the network Bitcoin developers currently use for testing. There, the researchers show that by encoding payments through Lightning, a botmaster can send commands to the CNC servers. Then, the servers would relay the messages to the bots they control, launching an attack. The researchers worry there are few steps to prevent these attacks. A major setback is Lightning does not have a central model to authorize or reject messages on what can or can't be passed. Possible countermeasures that may help detect potential activity and limit the damage to a user, according to Kurt, include taking down Lightning to prevent future attacks and compromising and turning off the CNC server. A CNC server can be detected, resulting in the revelation of its IP address. Law enforcement could use this IP address to find the physical computer. However, this wouldn't reveal the identity of the botmaster. Kurt conducts his research at FIU's AdWise, Advanced Wireless and Security Lab, located in Department of Electrical and Computer Engineering. I think that the worst issue that they would be creating here is the necessity of tagging your transactions. And what I mean is there have been several papers and several patents issued for payment systems that integrate some aspects of Lightning. In like one of them, I could swear was done by MasterCard or Visa. I think it was MasterCard actually, where they were proposing where they would have a certain percentage of the transaction be handled in Bitcoin and a certain percentage happened in fiat currency. And my feeling was that whatever percentage of the transaction was going to be denominated in crypto, and they didn't even state specifically Bitcoin, but I was thinking that they would do whatever percentage on the Bitcoin network was necessitated to open the payment channel and to dedicate a volume of US dollars or monetary value denominated in US dollars on a payment channel. And that it would be, bounced around in US dollars or calculated in US dollars. And damn it, where was I going with that? I kind of lost it there in the middle. Oh, the countermeasures. Okay, so the in the event that a malicious actor were ever to be able to mimic their tagging of their transactions happen, they would be doing their stuff in a Lightning style network that would have public facing nodes. Okay, so they would be able to receive and propagate transactions from people like you, right? But the thing is they plan to be tagging their transactions so they can be discerned from people like you. So they can have their little servers and their propagation tools and all that within the Lightning Network on the payment channels be exposed fully to you. But because your transactions don't have the little tag that their transactions do, they simply won't be calculating yours into the mix. Okay? And that seems kind of innocuous and not all that threatening until you consider the possibility that their transactions might be occupying the vast majority of the block space, thus pricing that block space according to their whims and their wiles. And if you can't afford it, your transactions aren't even going to be able to to establish a payment channel for you to convey them in your own terms, outside of their terms. And while that might seem like something, if you're managing enough funds, in Bitcoin, that might seem like something that's appealing to you, that you could be handling transactions for other people. But at the same time, such could be dedicated as a means of determining what's illegal and what's legal. And if the transactions are countable on Visa's network and MasterCard's network, and they can demonstrate all of their transaction IDs, they could be looking at where the other transaction IDs are propagating from or originating from, and they could say, we're going to go censor those motherfuckers physically. What's their IP address? And if they aren't on some VPN or some shit like that, they're fucked. That they will be receiving some enforcement actions, physical enforcement actions. And this is the way that they will discern themselves from you, is that they're going to be IDing their transactions that are happening across the Lightning Network, and they'll have enough nodes that are recognizing their transactions specifically to be able to propagate them all around the network without even having to worry about you. And like I said, they're going to address the ability to make payment channels by pricing people off of the Bitcoin blockchain. I think this is why they refer to it as blockchain instead of Bitcoin, is because effectively it won't even be Bitcoin anymore. It'll be like gas for the Bitcoin blockchain. And if you don't have it, there you go. Anyway, let's go ahead and throw back down with some music. And I haven't played anything by Probot, so let's go with that. Red War by Probot here on Coin Metal. And that was Anthrax with Fight 'Em Till You Can't. And it is with that I'd like to bring this episode to a close. Thank you very much for listening. I certainly do appreciate the support. We will be back again on Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And so until then, I want y'all to trade safe. Do your homework. And watch out for your own bunghole, because nobody else is going to do it for you. And as far as our last dance is concerned, I still have not picked anything out yet, but we'll do that right now. And so, let's see here. What looks good? What looks good? Not Clutch. We already played some Clutch. That's... No, not. Wait a minute. Here we go. Corrosion of Conformity. Damned for All Time. Last Dance. Here on Coin Metal. Thank you for listening again. And y'all have an excellent evening. Good night.